I love that this game questions can exes be friends?
The
The
answer's
answer
a
is
firm
no.
no.
Don't be friends with your exes unless you want to end up as a corpse behind a wall in a wedding dress. I'm Emmy,
I'm Annie.
and this week we're playing Mystery Case Files Ravenhearst.
And Pajama Sam, there's no need to hide when it's dark outside.
Double subtitle game week.
This week, Emmy and I picked games from our childhoods to make the other play. And these are games that had significant influence on us in some way, or games that we had a specific experience with. So, Emmy, can you tell me about the game I assigned you, which is Mystery Case Files Ravenhearst?
Yes, of course. So, Mystery Case Files Ravenhearst is a hidden object mystery game. It's part of, as you may imagine, the Mystery Case Files series. It was released in 2006 and was developed in-house and published by Big Fish Games, specifically led by Adrian Woods. Since then, the developing rights have been with several studios, including Elephant Games, iPic Games, and most recently, Grandma Games. Ravenhearst is the third game in the Mystery Case Files series, and several Ravenhearst sequels have been created for the series. Annie, have you played any of the other Mystery Case File series games, or just the Ravenhearst sequels, or anything besides this one?
So, I have played a bunch of the other Mystery Case Files games, and I've only played the next Ravenhearst game, but I was delighted to discover during a Steam sale last year that there were even more. So I have not played the rest, but I know that they're there.
Okay, great. I have a little quiz for you about this series and the Ravenhearst saga. Would you like to play?
Oh, I'm gonna embarrass myself, but yes, let's do it.
Well, I don't know that like not knowing trivia about the Mystery Case Files hidden object game series is embarrassing. I think it's okay.
It absolutely is because I aside like what kind of fan am I if I don't know? But I was also like 8 when I played these games
Yeah,
for the
I don't
first
know. I
time.
don't think
So,
you have to. There's also a lot of games, so like it wouldn't be. I don't know.
okay,
All
I'm
right,
ready.
are you ready? Okay. First question: how many games have been released in the Mystery Case File series overall? So like all of them, not just Ravenhearst Saga games.
25.
Okay, actually, I'm sorry. I just didn't continue, but I had options for you.
Oh, okay.
16, 35, 27, or 12.
27.
That is correct.
I didn't actually know that for real, so but let's pretend I did. Let's
But you
pretend.
were very close with your guess out of the gate. 12, by the way, is the number of Mystery Case Files Ravenhearst Saga games.
Wait, really?
Yes.
That's so many. I've only played like the first 2. I had no idea it kept going.
Which,
All right.
speaking of, we come to my second question, which is, which of these is not a real title in the Ravenhearst Saga? Key to Ravenhearst? Ravenhearst Freed? Escape from Ravenhearst? Or Ravenhearst Unlocked?
Okay, I know that Ravenhearst Escape from Ravenhearst is a real one. The others I'm not familiar with, but I'm going to guess that Ravenhearst Unlocked is not real.
That is incorrect.
Damn, which one?
Ravenhearst Freed is the not real title.
Okay, well, congrats on coming up with that one because it sounds very
Thank you.
realistic.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe that Ravenhearst Unlocked is after Key to Ravenhearst.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Okay, final question for you. What was the surname of Ravenhearst's antagonist Charles? Sallow, Dalamar, Fernsby, or Ainsworth?
I know what the answer is, but like Fernsby? The answer's Dalamar. I know that. But
Okay, that is
how'd you come
correct.
up? How'd you come up with the others?
Well, okay, so at first I had like A, B, C, D, and I was gonna
Mhm.
make D Dalamar, and so I was trying to come up with like names that started with A, and I just felt like they weren't believable enough, so then I looked up fancy sounding British last names.
Fernsby.
Yeah.
I'll be stealing that one.
Um,
Thank you.
okay, I hope you enjoyed your quiz.
Okay, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, you did a great job. That's enough on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me to get a voicemail from one of the cast members. Are you familiar, not familiar with Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me's quiz structure?
I I know what Wait Wait Don't Tell Me is, but I don't really listen to it because I was not raised on NPR. I was raised on Rush Limbaugh.
That is a key difference in our childhood. Yeah, I was raised on Car Talk, NPR's Car Talk. Um, okay, Annie, why did you want me to play this game?
I wanted you to play this game because I knew that you would be giving me a point and click game, and I wanted at least to give you a point and click in turn. But also, the mystery case files were a formative part of my childhood because my sister and I, growing up, spent a lot of time with our cousins who were roughly the same age, and we had a lot of sleepovers at their house. And they had a setup where they had a stereotypical like Dell desktop computer in the computer room, and we were little. We were like 8. So there were 2 office chairs, and that was the perfect amount of office chairs for us to all
For
sit
four
in.
little girls.
Yeah. For us
That's
to all
adorable.
sit in. Or we sat on like a desk to the side, but we would sit around this computer together and play a lot of games. And a couple of the others that we played were a series of Barbie games, but I don't know how they found them at first, but they got the Mystery Case Files games. So we played like one or two, and the hidden object games were hard when we were kids, so it really helped to have a team of like 8 and 9 year olds looking for all the objects together. But I remember this one specifically, Ravenhearst, really affecting us because it's a sort of gothic mystery. It was the first one that had any sort of story to the hidden object game rather than just a theme. And it made us so scared and excited at the time. I'm sure that if anyone goes and looks at it now, and you'll probably talk about this too, but it wouldn't be scary to an adult, or especially someone who has played any more advanced sort of scary
It's a
video
little
game.
spooky though. It's still a little like what's going on?
Yeah, it was what's going on. It was also, I do think, one of my first encounters with gothic fiction, and looking back on the story now, it's very standard. Like, clearly it is following a formula that others have established before it, but it did help me get really interested in more gothic fiction, gothic romances type stuff that I've really enjoyed since. So I feel like you can draw a straight line between this game and my deep love of Shirley Jackson. So I have to thank it for a lot. And we stayed up late finishing this. We, like, over the course of several sleepovers, we managed to do this together, and so it was a real sense of accomplishment for us when we achieved the ending of the game. So that's why I picked it
Yeah.
for you. I am sad that you didn't necessarily have like a coterie of cousins around you to play this, but I hope you
the
were
the group noun for cousins is a coterie.
a coterie officially. But yeah, I hope you were able to have a similar experience, and I'm curious what your take on it is.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I haven't played a hidden object game in a while. I definitely associate those games with like the mid 2000s, and I should have texted my sister actually because she was a big, and I think still is, hidden object fan when we were kids. So
Mhm.
I wonder if these were some of the games that she played. I just remember those being like sort of a constant for her. I'm very curious if this was one of them.
Yeah, I don't know any other series, is the only thing. Uh, the other games that we played, again, we weren't looking for more hidden object games most of the time. We would play more mystery case files if we wanted that. Then we ended up looking at, Barbie as Rapunzel fixing the castle, or there was also a game that we played called Magic Garden, and that was a gardening sim slash you fight off pests during every level so that you can harvest your flowers and sell them.
That sounds fun.
It was awesome. I'm sure you can find it online.
Yeah, I think there's something really special about games that you played with other people as a child. There's something really special
Mm.
for children about social engagement together at that age that I think really locks in memories. So it's not surprising to me that both of the games we picked were games that we played with other people because I played Pajama Sam with my mom and have really clear memories of it. But the other game I have really clear memories of is I think it's called My Dream Wedding. Did you ever play that?
I don't think so.
Or no, I'm sorry. My Fantasy Wedding, I think is what it is.
Not that either. Tell
Um,
me more.
yeah, it was something I played with my childhood best friend Erin. We met in the fourth grade, and I'm sure we must have played this in like fourth or fifth grade because we are definitely like elementary school. But she had it on CD-ROM, of course, and it's really just like you are getting married, go to the wedding mall and pick out pick out your cake, pick out your dress, pick out your music, and then you walk down the aisle to all of your custom things. And I think we just really liked the design aspect of it, of like, it can be whatever you want. Like, I distinctly remember because I was starting my goth phase, making my wedding dress black. But like, I have such strong memories of this game because we played it together.
I have a question. Did you also get to design a spouse?
Maybe? I think that part wasn't that interesting to us.
There is something funny to me that it isn't at all. You can view it as the game encouraging young women to only aspire to marriage and think about their wedding from the time that they're little, but also clearly that's not really how it ended up working. You guys were just excited to have an event to dress up for
Yes.
and
Yeah.
control and have all the attention on you for.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't even think it was about having all the attention on you for, because, like, I think we equally enjoyed when each one of us was doing our dream wedding or our fantasy wedding. Um, and I think it's fun to have control over those things.
Hmm. And have an unlimited budget, apparently.
Yes. Yeah. So I also remember, like, wanting to get it myself and having, like, a hard time finding it.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely relate to the experience of going over to a friend's house and playing a computer game and only being able to play it at their house. I feel like I
Yeah.
actually ruined several friendships as well because whenever I would go over to certain friends' house, I would be like, okay, so can we play Zoo Tycoon 2? And they're like, Annie, can we please do literally anything else? I was like, no, Zoo Tycoon 2.
Sutekun 2 only. Um, okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the gameplay of Ravenhearst and the story.
Yes,
So, the
please.
gameplay of Ravenhearst overall is I think most people are familiar with hidden object puzzles, but you have a list of items that you need to find that are clues in each room, and in the case of Ravenhearst, you might need to find 60 total items and they're hidden across different rooms, and there's like 8 to 10 items per room. And it's just a big pile of items that are sometimes sort of hidden in the wallpaper or the grain of a chair. Sometimes they're easier, sometimes they're harder. I assume it's just randomized. And once you find enough clues, you put together a torn up illustration from a diary as like a jigsaw puzzle, and you do this on the crime computer.
I love the crime computer.
The crime computer, because the framing of this is that you are a master detective in the service of the Queen of England.
Who signs her letters
um
to you. I replayed a bit of it before we got onto this episode, and I forgot how funny and ridiculous that bit was because the Queen will sign her personal letters to you on this case as Queenie.
and she will say like, yes, really, the Queen of England, which I love. That it's like, well, even in this video game it's like, well, that would be ridiculous for it to really be the Queen of England, so we gotta hammer home it really is, it's the Queen of England. So you are, you're putting up diary entries as illustrations, like a jigsaw puzzle on the crime computer for the Queen of England. um and so that's how you get the story, is through the gradual reveal of these diary entries, which chronicle this a young woman who um, moved to England and has become a teacher?
Yes, she moved from America to England to become a teacher in this small rural town. And then there's a dance for the town that happens, and she catches the eye of Charles Dalimar, local rich man who lives at the estate of Ravenhearst, and
Yes. Or
things
he
unfold
begins
from there.
to. Oh, sorry, I want to mention one more mechanic and then we can talk more about the story. So, the other mechanic I want to mention is that sometimes to gain access to a new room so that you can get all the clues you need, you have to solve this sort of like Rube Goldberg esque puzzle to unlock a door, which I thought was a really fun mechanic that you don't get in other hidden object games. And sometimes it's like, oh, this makes sense, and sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do here, so I'm just clicking around randomly until something happens. But usually you can sort of start to figure out like, oh, I see what I'm supposed to do here. And that was maybe my favorite part, is the solving these doors. But the story is this young woman. She's moved to England from America to become a teacher in a rural town, and there's a dance. This is sort of the next diary entry you get. She catches the eye of, as Annie described, local rich man Charles Dalimar, and he falls fast for her, and they begin a courtship, but she sort of questions for herself whether or not she's ready to marry someone, and he's busy building his manor, which he names after her. Her last name is Ravenhurst. She also mentions that he's filling the house with strange things, so there is an in-story reason that this house is full of random stuff, although there are quite modern items in the house. And you see over these diary fragments that things become sort of challenging in this woman's life. Emma is her name. So Emma is proposed to by Charles, and she is not sure, and she says no, and he's upset, but he later comes back and is, a wonderful friend to her, and is willing to lodge her at Ravenhurst Manor when she becomes ill. And as these diary entries are revealed, you start to become suspicious that Charles is the reason that she is ill, and it eventually becomes quite explicit that he's sort of a madman and is poisoning her. I'd expected the game to end not happily, but like she manages to escape, is the last diary entry. But that is not the last diary entry. The last diary entry is her being cut off in the middle of it. And then your final task is to get 7 skeleton keys, which are in different rooms. You have to just sort of go search for them to open one more kind of crazy door. And behind that door is her corpse. So the final reveal is you're opening this door with the 7 skeleton keys, and you have to open this coffin where Emma's corpse has been kept all this time, and by doing that, it releases her. I should say that you're instructed to do this by a journal entry that is written in the present tense. That implies that Emma's ghost has been watching you, or I think she explicitly says that she's been watching you, and that you must do this to free her. And so that's where it ends. And I was sort of shocked. I was like, I really thought this was going to be like about this scary antagonist Charles Dalimar and this woman who barely escaped from him. But it actually turns out she did not escape from him. She was killed, and her corpse was kept in a hidden wall for decades.
Mm-hmm.
But not to worry, you've freed her spirit.
Yeah, although there are so many sequels that I'm like, well, what the hell else went on in that house? How many other ghosts are you freeing at this point?
I mentioned that not all the items are, some of them are more modern. And so I think there is this implication that it's like he's continued to live here and collect all of these items and become more and more unhinged. And so at least according to the Ravenhearst wiki, it does seem like he is the like main antagonist for a couple of the follow-up games, and then perhaps his descendants or his ancestors are antagonist. I think they actually refer to it as the Dalimar saga rather than the Ravenhearst saga, because it's like beyond Ravenhearst, like the manor specifically, although there are numbers set there. but also like his sort of family line.
Yeah, because the game takes place in the early 1900s, and then you're playing in presumably like 2008 or 2006 or whenever this came out. So there's a lot of time in between. One of the things that I thought about when I was replaying a bit, which I didn't think a bit about when I played it as a kid, was the diary entries come with when you do the puzzle pieces, you're not putting together the words, you're putting together a like beautifully drawn picture from the time that depicts what's happening. And I am now no fun. So I looked at that picture and I thought, who drew that moment? Who
Mm-hmm.
was there an on-site artist at the time? Because they're not photographs, they're drawn for sure. But also,
Yeah, I think
uh,
if they were photographs, it actually would be even more disruptive because that to me even more so than the illustration is like what someone took a picture like she's running away from him with an axe or whatever and someone took a picture. It's like when a parent like posts a video of their kid crying for a really long time and you're like, what, you're just taking a video of them?
hmm uh, they did actually in the story have a witness that was there for a lot of this, but it was Emma's maid Rose or Rosa. Is it Rose?
I think it's Rose. Yes, but she doesn't come in until Emma's been sick for a while and needs more caretaking.
Right. And then Rose does help her try to escape, although that ultimately fails. And then I wonder if any of the games answer the question of Rose's fate.
They do. Do you want to be spoiled about what they are?
Yes, tell me what happens to her. It's probably something bad, right?
Yes, she and her two daughters are killed,
Oh
and their
God.
spirits are also trapped. And so I think it's the sequel is freeing their spirits.
Cool. Cool.
Yes.
I wanted to say the lead up to the ending there, where you're gathering all the skeleton keys and then where you're completing the final puzzles to release Emma from her imprisonment, that was the scariest, coolest thing ever. When the four of us were sitting around that computer late at night. When we were kids, the lead up to that ending was both absolutely thrilling, and I remember we were also freaking out because we were like, does that mean she's dead back there? What are we going to see? What are they going to show us? And we were so afraid, but we kept going. We were very brave about it. And so I remember, yeah, very clearly that moment of triumph where you get through with all the keys, and what happens is you do happen upon like a coffin that's propped up against a wall, and there are candles, right? Candles that are lit, and that was really cool and creepy too. And so then you open the coffin, and yes, like her desiccated corpse is in there, dressed in a wedding dress, and then she like, floats away, disappears to be free. And it was really beautiful too, but also wild because again, I think nobody expected that at the end to be the ending that we were faced with, especially as kids.
Yeah. You paint such a clear picture of like the four of you in your two office chairs. That's so cute. I like hadn't remembered to this point, but I definitely remember sitting with a friend, two of us to one office chair on like the family computer. That's so cute.
Yeah.
Um I can totally see you guys like you're maybe staying up a little later than you're supposed to be because you have to see the ending, and it does do a great job of building the tension. I think like things are you sort of start to get an inkling of like, oh, I don't know about this, something seems wrong, and like I don't know, could it be he's like poisoning her, or something that's wrong, but she's continuing to say like, oh, he's being such a great friend to me. Or at one point she has this sort of like, it's unclear if it's like a prophetic dream or if she's been like drugged. Her dream is that she's dressed up in this wedding dress, and I wish I took notes about what happens specifically in that dream, but that she's like very specifically in this white gown, and the implication that she's like being forced to marry Charles and that he hasn't given up on the idea of marrying her. He's not just a good friend. I love that this game questions can exes be friends?
The
The
answer is
answer
a
is
firm
no.
no.
Don't be friends with your exes unless you want to end up as a corpse behind a wall in a wedding dress. But yeah, it is real creepy because it's like she's not in the wedding dress when she's fleeing. So he definitely dressed up her corpse. There's also a very scary revelation. The maid discovers a nursery room with a
Yeah.
baby doll in it.
Yeah. And then that's one of the rooms that is unlocked later that you can do like object searches in. Because not all of the rooms are available to you at the beginning, and more rooms become unlocked and like available throughout the house as you go. So yeah, there's a nursery.
Yes, I really hate the in the attic there's a baby doll with a cigar and I hate that. um yeah, I think it's really interesting that the I was never at any point afraid or like concerned that the house was haunted. Like that's not the scary part of it. The scary part of it is like a horrible thing happened here to real life people. Not I
Hmm.
mean not actual real life people, but like it's not that like oh this woman died and now she's like taking her revenge by haunting the house. It's like no, she's like a friendly spirit that like wants to be released and the horrifying thing that happened is like the actions of a madman
Hmm.
that happened in the past.
In terms of you not thinking about the house as being haunted, did you play much with the sound on?
I played with the sound on at the beginning and then I turned it off for sort of the meat of it. And then as I knew I was getting close to the end, I turned the sound back on. So I did hear towards the end, I don't know if it's ever present. I definitely didn't notice it at the beginning and I did notice it at the end where there's like whispering of like, come find me.
Hmm. So this is part of the reason why we were so afraid when we were kids playing this as well. I think that the soundscape of the game is done very well because there's slight music, but it's mostly sound effects that play as
Mm-hmm.
you're searching through the houses. I can understand why you might play with the sound off because it can get irritating after a while, but in terms of establishing an ambiance of unease, fear, and that gothic haunting, it's all really well done, I felt. Are there any puzzles that particularly stood out to you with the Rube Goldberg ones that you just really liked? Something that happened when you clicked it and you were delighted?
I think they have a lot of the joy that I get from older point and click games where just most things that you click on do something. And so I think most of the joy I was getting was out of like clicking on stuff and things happening, whether it's useful or not. I think there's one where you have a chicken lay several eggs, and I enjoyed that because it felt like it was a little hard to figure out what you needed to do at first, but then it felt very, you have to do it sort of like four times, and so then I enjoyed the like algorithmic repeating it. Um, I do want to talk about just like some of my reactions as I was going through the game. First of
Please.
all, as soon as I opened it, Big Fish, hell yeah. Big Fish was like the publisher of the mid 2000s, I feel like. Like almost every CD-ROM, unless it was like a licensed game, like a Barbie game or something, it was almost always Big Fish. So there were a number of Big Fish games in our house. I was like, hell yeah, Big Fish. And I love the crime computer. Is the crime computer consistent across mystery case file games? Is there always a crime computer?
From what I will recall, yes. And I mean, in the years since, uh, various cop shows have not given me the indication that the idea of the crime computer is not a thing. They just maybe don't call it that, but maybe they should.
I was also thinking about I wonder who's still making hidden object games, and since I was looking on the Ravenhearst wiki, it seems like well, Grandma Games I think is developer who has the developer rights, but they are still making these games.
Hold
So
on, the developer is called Grandma Games?
yeah, and it's like Ma is capital like grandma.
Huh. I mean, I guess I do sort of associate point and click computer games with my grandmother.
Yeah, I
So it
don't know
almost
that
makes
it's
sense.
they. I think they make other games too. I like it's just the developer rights have sort of bounced around,
Hmm.
but uh, it's interesting to me that they're still making these. Because I guess people like my sister are still playing them.
I do wonder who still buys them. And
Yeah.
I also think about how when I go and look at them now, a lot of them are so inexpensive. They're $10 usually and often on sale. And I remember it was a huge deal to ask one of our parents to purchase a computer game for us at that time. So that's partly why it was so special to play this. It was because my aunt and uncle were more willing to buy computer games than my parents were. So going over to my cousin's house was awesome because they had so many more computer games. So when we wanted to play something, especially like this, it was really special. And we didn't learn how to pirate then, but we did, for example, for Magic Farm, we played that one on a free trial that had a timer on it. It was the full game, but you only had it for 2 days or a number of hours or something. So with that one, we were particularly frantic in playing because we wanted to beat it in the time that we had before it ran out, and then we would have had to ask a parent for money. And we never did get the full game.
Did you just play it? Were you basically proto speed running it?
Basically, yeah. And we would have to designate, like, I forget if we did this for Ravenhearst, but I do sort of remember, for example, I was the puzzle one. So I would sit in the chair, but we kind of had to designate the fastest, like, best person to sit in the chair at any given time with the mouse, because if we were, like, really pressed for time, well, we had to have the expert.
That's so cute. I love like children's problem solving. Like I love it's just like you had to naturally organize yourselves to like accomplish this task. I think that's great and it was so self-directed.
Well, it was self-directed, but there was also definitely squabbling and definitely egos involved, probably mine, because I was the oldest and the bitchiest, but it all worked out.
It's so funny that well, it's not surprising at all that we're friends now, but like our childhood experiences are so similar and yet also so different of like you being the oldest and me being the youngest. I feel
Hmm.
like being the youngest just means like getting shunted around.
Yeah, and being the oldest means you're doing the shunting. Yeah, basically every time I describe a crime I committed as a child, you're like, oh yeah, my sister did that to me too.
I've been a victim of that crime. Yeah. Going back to like who's still making hidden object games, the other thing I was thinking is like, have there been any advances in hidden object technology and design? And one of the things that just occurred to me is like, yes, and I think there's been a recent like uptick in hidden object games, especially on mobile. Like there's those much more like black and white sketch looking hidden object games where it's like hidden cats or um
Oh.
I feel like there's been, I don't know if it's been an uptick or I'm just paying more attention to them now, but I think there's a number of them on mobile or on Steam or whatever, and you can see the artist's influence more than I think in those older games where it's trying to be a little bit more photorealistic.
Hmm. That was the aesthetic at the time. Though I do want to say that the drawings that came with each diary entry in Ravenhearst, I remember loving those, and in particular thinking that Emma Ravenhearst was the most beautiful drawn woman ever. I thought she was so pretty, and I wished I
You're
could
just
draw
like
like that.
Charles.
I'm just like Charles, except I didn't poison her to keep her in my house and then kill her.
Yeah. What do you think some of the spookiest items are that are hidden in, or like most unnerving items are?
There's always like a baby doll head or something hanging
Yeah.
around, and sometimes you're asked to find an axe, and you're like, where, why is that axe there in the nursery or whatever? But most of the objects were pretty mundane. I don't think I specifically recall any item where I was like, I wish I wasn't clicking that right now.
The spookiest item of them all to me was loose food that is like perfectly fresh. Just like a perfectly fresh burger. It's like the supersized me extra that's like, oh, how disgusting. This McDonald's burger doesn't decay at all.
I don't think I worried about that, which is maybe because I just wasn't paying attention to the meta idea of like, wait, why is this object here? I was like, of course there's a burger. And of course it's fresh.
Oh, I have a question for you about the, because I assumed you've played this multiple times and maybe you don't remember. Does
Mm.
the, so the final door, you have to get the seven skeleton keys, but it's also still sort of a puzzle, and you have to match the keys to another, um, like symbol, and that symbol gives you a letter, and you have to spell out a letter that's like a password on the door. Does the password change?
I actually haven't played this part multiple times, so I have no idea.
Okay, because the password when I played it was revered, and I thought it was going to be revenge, but revered is much spookier.
So I don't know, but I just looked it up and I'm watching somebody else play The Final Door, and this one is spelling out idolize. So it seems like the password changes, but it must usually be some password implied to be set by Charles Dalamar that describes how he felt about Emma.
Hmm. Which is upsetting. Because it does really, like, it's consistent with this theme of obsession and, like, putting a romantic interest on a pedestal in a way that makes them become not human anymore. And so he
Mm-hmm.
can justify horrific acts because he's like needs to be near her and not thinking about her as a real person that exists.
Right. And also, the way that it's set up, I remember with the candles, with there's flowers everywhere as well. It is very much a shrine to a woman he felt he loved deeply, even though anyone else on the outside would look at, you're insane. So, it's a little heartbreaking to see that in that obsession he really thought it was all just like pure idolation, pure reveration of, someone he then murdered. Because if he couldn't have her, nobody could.
Yeah, a story for the ages.
Thank you for humoring me in playing this game. It's really fun to hear about it almost 20 years later. And it was very weird to open it up again too on my own computer and realize not how dumb I was as an 8-year-old, but how different something can feel with that much
Mm-hmm.
time between.
Was there anything that you remembered that wasn't there, or I'm sure there are lots of things that you forgot that were there, but was there anything you like that surprised you that was really different from what you remembered or expected?
Only thing is just how many hints were available. I was
Mm.
like, why did we think this was hard? There's so many hints. But that's just me being rough on my child self for no reason. She was having fun.
Yeah. All right. Do we want to wrap up on Ravenhurst?
Yes, let's wrap up on Ravenhearst. I'm really excited to talk about your game. The last thing I'll say on Ravenhearst, though, is that yes, even though looking back on it, the story was quite simple and tropey, I'm so glad that I experienced it that way. Because it actually, I learned later, partly did something that no hidden object game had really done before, which was it had a story in the first place. And that's partly why there's been so many Ravenhearst games after it. It's because it was a saga. And I was already a kid who read a lot at that point, but it definitely helped me take a turn toward the spooky, and I'm still kind of on that kick. So thank you, Big Fish Games.
Thank you for all you've done, Big Fish Games.
So the game I played on Emmi's recommendation was the first Pajama Sam game, known in full as Pajama Sam There's No Need to Hide When It's Dark Outside, which I believe Emmy actually discussed in our first episode as something important in her
Yes.
gaming journey. So I'll give a short introduction and then Emmy can extol the virtues of the game. So, Pajama Sam, No Need to Hide When It's Dark Outside, is a computer game originally released in 1996. It was created by Humongous Entertainment, which is also known for the Backyard Sports, Putt Putt, and Freddy Fish games. And out of those, I had only briefly played Freddy Fish before at a friend's house. I was aware of the others, but I hadn't played any of them. The company was sold to Nickelodeon in its later years and later Atari, and then ultimately closed as their parent companies faced financial issues. The Humongous Entertainment brand still exists in name, but mostly to release ports of their classic games to new systems. So I did play this the old-fashioned way, that is, on my computer, pointing and clicking, versus on any other system. And it was the Steam port, which we'll talk about later as maybe an issue in the gameplay experience. The craziest thing about this game to me, just when I was doing some research on who made it and the background of development, it's that Pajama Sam is voiced by Pamela Adlon, who is a famous actress and writer and director, who also, Emmy, you might best know her as the voice of Bobby on King of the Hill as well.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah.
That rocks.
Yeah. Is it all coming together now? Is it clicking?
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, so that is also Pajama Sam. And then she was known for her friendship and work with Louis C.K. for a while, though she cut him off once all of the allegations surfaced about Louis C.K. And then she also had her own show that she wrote and directed and starred in called Better Things, which is actually, fun fact, the star of Nora got her start there playing one of her daughters. So, an actual celebrity who is, on late night shows and interviewed and things, and is also Bobby Hill, was also Pajama Sam for the first 3 games.
That's why she's a celebrity to me.
Oh, of course.
Although I didn't know this until just now. But that's where I know her celebrity from, is Pajama Sam.
Of course. And she's actually had quite a prolific voice acting career, so I suggest taking a glance at her other credits because she has popped up in many a thing that you've probably heard before. So, Emmy, why did you tell me to play this game?
I told you to play this game because it's maybe one of the most important games in my whole life. And we talked about it on our first episode, but I wrote my college entrance essay about Pajama Sam.
You did?
Yeah. So when we applied to college, it was this is such a specific thing that no one cares about. The Common App essays for college entrance. I was responding to the prompt of where do you feel most at home, or sort of prompting you to talk about, spaces that are important to you. And I chose Pajama Sam and talked about I don't know, I related the aspects of it that I felt were really important, and related them to oh, just this thing happens in Pajama Sam, this experience in my life also took me on different paths, like the mine cart in the mine. And I credit that with my college acceptance, because I shout out to me, I think that was very creative. But it's true that it was a really meaningful game to me, partly because I played it with my mom, and partly just because it stuck in my head for a long time. I played the first 3, there's a 4th, I believe, and I just really enjoyed them all. I think it was the first time I ever really realized or knew that a computer game, a video game, could be so engaging. And then now, as I'm in graduate school, it was something I revisited, thinking about what was it that was so meaningful to me about playing with my mom, and this game that is not specifically an educational game, right? That's not the specific game. How can we use games for young children as opportunities to develop agency, creativity, and problem solving in ways where it's not just a game that teaches you about fractions, right? But I do think there is a lot of problem solving in Pajama Sam that you have to think about in terms of sequencing and having what you need first so that you can get the thing later. So it's just something that I revisit a lot about like something that was really successful for me as a young child and like what are the aspects of game design that we can use to support children's development while they're still having a really fun and meaningful experience.
When you played it with your mom, did she sit with you the entire time?
I think so. I want to say I was probably like 6 when we played it together. So I think I probably couldn't have navigated it on my own without her. Maybe. Um, but from my memory, whether it's because I remember most playing with my mom or if she was there the whole time. And I don't really remember the specific ways we played together. I just remember being there with her.
Gotcha. Do you know if she was the one who said, sit down and play this game with me, or did you seek it out and want to play it yourself?
I would have guessed that it was her choice because I don't know how I would have found out about it. Unless it was like maybe I saw the CD-ROM and I was like, I like the look of that little blue skinned and haired boy. His skin just leads straight into his hair.
Yes. Which
um,
actually, once you're done with this question, I'll describe the premise and go from there.
yeah, I think that she probably picked it, and I know it's probably remained in my memory as well because my mom often talks about what a great game she thinks it is, and my mom will play it on her iPad. Sometimes there's an iPad
Uh,
version.
even now?
Yeah.
Cute. Oh, yeah, I think we did talk about that. So, I will describe the premise and the general look at the game and then get into some of the things I wanted to talk about as I played. You play as Sam, a kid who, for the very first time, is going to go to sleep without the lights on. And he's afraid of the dark, but he's determined to make it through. And he has decided, in order to do so, he is going to go capture the darkness in his closet that he's afraid of. And then he won't have anything to be afraid of anymore, and then he can go to sleep. So you gather a few precious items that he'll need to face darkness, which are a flashlight, a mask to make him look like his hero, Pajama Man, in comics. So that's why it's called Pajama Sam, because it's Pajama Man, but our man Sam. And his, and I wrote it out because they say it, the full name of it, every single time it happens. The Pajama Man All Metal Collectible Lunchbox. Am I missing a word? I feel like I'm almost missing a word. It felt so
No, that's
long.
right. But he calls it his portable containment unit as well.
Yes, he does, which I really enjoyed. So he gets the lunchbox, the flashlight, and the mask on, and then he heads into his closet. But it's not a normal closet. You end up going into this portal to the land of darkness. And pretty much immediately you're mugged by a group of what I wrote down. What I wrote down was these trees are such fucking bitches. And they are. You are immediately mugged by some hostile trees and you lose your 3 items. And obviously, Pajama Sam cannot face darkness without them. So you have to travel through the land of darkness to recover these items so that you can make the final confrontation. I really liked that structure. I think it really worked quite well. And to be clear, not all of the trees are that bad. After you get mugged, there's one tree that helps you out by letting you have the rope that the other trees used to capture you, which is honestly probably the least she could do. And then you go through and you meet some other friends and foes as you go. Does that sound about right? Am I missing anything important?
No, that's right. He wants to go capture darkness. He falls into the world of his closet, and he's like, I guess this is where darkness lives. And then yeah, immediately walks into a trap where he gets hoisted up by his foot upside down, and the trees claim to be customs inspectors
Oh
and
God.
ask if he declared those items. And I Pajama Sam like knows who the real enemies are, which is custom inspectors.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of jokes in this game that I didn't pick up on when I was a kid, or even maybe when I was like a teenager or a college student replaying this game, or maybe I just forgot. But of yeah, the the trees asking him if he declared these items, and so they must take them. And I
Mm-hmm.
just really forgot how, I mean, I knew this, but I getting back into it, I love the music and the voice acting in this game so much. Like we talked about Sam's voice actor. He's got this wonderful, like, little raspy kind of kid voice, and the trees that you run into have a ridiculous sort of intonation where some of them are British, some of them aren't, but they just
Yeah,
have like a
some of them
really
are
nasty.
they're very posh, snobby British people.
Yes. And then especially I love the boat Otto.
So I'll describe that. Yes, you land in the land of darkness. You immediately get stopped by border patrol, which is too relevant. And then once you're stripped of your possessions, you continue forward. And then you have three paths ahead of you. The first path goes to the mines, where there's a cart who is Rusty, and he'll be able to travel through the mines with you if you get rid of the rust somehow. Also, his name is King, and I realized that they must call him that because there's also a sign in the mines next to him that says crossing, but with like an X instead of the word cross. And so that must be like, Pajama Sam as a kid looking at that and saying that must be pronounced king because he doesn't know that it's crossing.
Oh, I've never thought about that.
I really think that's what it is. I did look up a bit about the game's development and I couldn't find anything about why they named him that, but that was
Yeah,
my
I think
assumption.
he also just called himself King of the Mines.
He's king of the mines, but then there's the sign right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So, in any case, so there's king.
Oh,
Right.
because it's X-ing, like
Mm-hmm.
crossing. I see. I thought you meant it was just an X, and I was like, I don't know why you would think that's pronounced King.
Mm,
No,
no,
okay, I'm with you now. I got you.
yes.
Yeah,
So,
that's cute.
um, so then the other path straight ahead of you leads to Darkness's house, which is this very convoluted and fun-looking tree house, which requires the use of a makeshift elevator to get up to. I don't know what else to call it, but there's a bucket attached to the elevator on one side, so you need to put something heavy in the bucket in order to use the elevator, and there's a bit of a puzzle, which I very much enjoyed the animation of, but I'll get back to that later. And then to the right, there's a river, and that's where the boat we mentioned, Otto, is. And he is a wooden rowboat sitting on the ground, not in the water. And there's also clearly a path across the river, along with an up and down that you can do. So, of course, Pajama Sam, who is like a very polite, funny little boy. I really enjoyed his whole thing. Like, he's so well brought up. When he enters a room, he'll wipe his shoes on the rug, but he politely, and he's not afraid to say hi. He says hello to Otto and they introduce themselves. And then he asks Otto if he can help him get across the river. And Otto says, I'm so sorry, I can't do that. You see, I'm made of wood. And Sam's like, what do you mean? Wood floats. And he's like, no, I had this friend who told me that wood sinks. So, which also to me is very beautiful childhood logic. It's like somebody on the recess playground tells you something and it must be true.
Yeah, it's like specifically his friend's cousin or like his cousin's friend. Like, he got in the water and he sank.
So, obviously, he can't get in the water. So, you immediately have a few tasks ahead of you then. If you want to get across the river to recover your items, because there's probably something over there, you need to prove to Otto that wood floats. So, at this point, all you have is a rope, but conveniently, there was a wooden plank hanging out on a creek that you crossed earlier to get to this point. So, you can use the rope to get the plank and then go back to Otto and put the wood in the water and show him that wood floats. And so then he's not afraid anymore, and then he'll drive you wherever. I tried this a couple different ways, by the way, because I played it twice. And you can either talk to him first and then in that conversation put the wood in the water, or you can put the wood in the water and then click him and be like, look, look. I don't know which way you prefer.
I don't know that I prefer either way. I think I usually talk to him first and then I go get the wood. Um, I just, I love how nervous he is and then how he goes like headlong into it. Or he doesn't quite. He puts a little foot of like the edge of his boat in the water and he's like, okay. And then he jumps
Mm-hmm.
in. But my favorite line that he says is, it's so scary. I wish I'd been born a car.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
as someone,
also sort of a reference to the putt putt games because putt putt is a
oh,
little car.
yeah, and as someone who had driving anxiety for a really long time, I was like, do not wish for that, you dumb boat. You have no idea what you want. So, yes, once you're able to do that, then you unlock some paths to other various places. And similar to King, you actually can't help King until you've gotten the boat going, because then the boat leads to an outhouse in the river where, at least for me, one of the items was hidden. That was where the flashlight was. But there's also, before you can even get in there to get the flashlight, there's also a can of oil. So then you can take the oil can and bring that to King, and then you can start traveling through the mines. And all of this is necessary to do before you can get to Darkness, partly because of the items you need to acquire, but also because in Darkness's house, in order to get some of the items back, you need to answer a quiz show. And one of the questions, all of the questions are kind of general knowledge things, which I was all surprised they were going to ask kids because it wasn't all stuff that a kid would immediately know or be able to figure out from the game. It was like general science things. But then the last question is, what is the exact number on the meter in the mines? And you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll come back. So then you have to get through the mines to get the meter.
Something that I really like about what they do in that game is, although it's things that you wouldn't know as a kid, you still are always going to be right. Because, for example, they have a question about rocket science, and it asks you how many, I don't know if it's, how, I think it's just how much fuel does it take for a rocket ship to launch, something like that. And there's a very specific technical answer. There's also, you can also say a ton, you could say a lot. But so in any case, they are actually all correct. Although I don't know if they, I can't remember whether they, I didn't try doing one of the other ones. I wish I had. But like, obviously the very specific one for the rocket science is correct, but also the other ones would be correct because they are like, it is a lot and it is at least a ton.
True. I guess I didn't try to click any of the answers. I just clicked the one there. I was like, yeah, that one's right. Interesting that there are these other things here, though. So that would be something I
Yeah.
would try again on a playthrough.
And then you also see, like, you can't just bypass the specific world answer because all of your options are like, I don't know, can I come back later?
Yeah.
And so you can't do that until, and then you do actually, it is possible to be wrong on that answer when you come back, but now the answers are different numbers. And so
Mm-hmm.
depending on how the paths branch, so we mentioned, we ended up playing the same kind of playthrough, but there are options where the items will be in different places. And in that case, the questions will also be different. So sometimes it's the number on the water meter, and it might be something in the music room where not the music room, but where all the furniture are dancing in Darkness's house as
Mm-hmm.
well. You might need to find information from then. So that is one of the ways that it sort of puts you down different paths.
Gotcha. So in that case, I was going to ask you what those different paths are like because in my playthrough, for some reason, all of the items were in the same spot both times when there was supposed to be apparently variation. And when you played, you said that all of the items were in the exact same spots that I experienced. Like the mask was on a carrot, and you have to rescue his carrot friends from a fridge in Darkness's house so that he'll give you the mask back. And the lunchbox was by a well that was surrounded by thorns, so you had to find a way to come up from below the well to get your lunchbox back. And the flashlight, like I said, was in the outhouse, which lacks a doorknob, so you need to find a doorknob to put on the door so you can open the door and get the flashlight. And that would happen twice. So, because of that, there were a few rooms that I encountered, especially in Darkness's house, that didn't seem to have any narrative or gameplay purpose other than being fun. It felt like, oh, this is a path, but it's a dead end right now, and I didn't really know why until I talked to you and found that there are different branches. So, what are the different branches? Where else can things be?
Yeah, so I had to look these up because I didn't remember all of them off the top of my head. The main one I remembered being different is that, so the lunchbox, as we discussed, could either be by the well, which is obstructed with thorns, or it might be under the water in the river. And
Oh.
so, in the case of when it's under the water in the river, you have to go get a magnet, and then the magnet can pull the lunchbox out of the river. Because the items might be in a different location, that also completely changes what you need to do to get it as well, which I appreciate. It's not like the same puzzle and it's just in a different spot. It's like you actually, the path you have to follow to get the item to get the next item is also different.
Mm-hmm.
And then the flashlight is either in the outhouse, which is what we both experienced, or it is in part of the mines. There's another different path where you have to be able to like reach to grab the flashlight in the mines. And the last option is the mask is either on the carrot, as we discussed, or it's in the room where there are dancing furniture in Darkness's
Mm.
house. And so in that case, this is the big one that I wanted you to experience. And so I was frustrated that our it might have just been a coincidence that you got the same ones in a row and I got the same one. It could also be a bug with the Steam port where it doesn't properly switch the randomness. I
That's what
don't
I was
know.
wondering.
When the mask is in the room of dancing furniture, that's an issue because when you open the door, the dancing furniture all stops and they pretend to be regular furniture again. And so you have to then go on a um, path where you go to the secret lab in Darkness's house. You make a potion that turns you invisible, and then you go up the dumbwaiter to be invisible when you walk into the dancing furniture room so you can get the mask. And I always really liked that path when I was a kid because I really liked the lab and making the potion. And so I realized in my playthrough, like, I didn't go in the lab at all. I didn't need to. And I was like, well, that's a bummer. That's like a really fun area. So I was curious if you played a different path. And that's how we found out we played all the same puzzles, which is kind of a bummer because I think that's part of the fun of this game is how expansive it does feel. Like at first you're just faced with these three paths and you think it's going to be a pretty small world, but it opens up quite a bit.
So I did not even discover the lab until a casual, had to go look up how to complete the side quest in the game, which is you have to gather 10 pairs of socks because Pajama Sam's mother asked him to pick up his socks, which you do throughout the game. The first one is in his bedroom, and then the rest are in the Land of Darkness. And I had completed everything. I was ready to go face darkness, but I was missing 2 socks. And it was going to drive me crazy if I couldn't complete this game that 6-year-olds could complete. So I did what any real gamer would do, and I went and looked it up in a guide. And it said this sock, 2 of the socks, again, were what I had left. One of them, it turns out, was in the lab. The other was in Darkness's room. So I wasn't even going to be able to get it till the final confrontation. But I went to go look up the lab. And I would not have found it if I didn't have to. It wasn't super clear in the area that leads to the lab that I could even move to the right, which is what I needed to do. And it said I could, so I tried it. And then, yeah, an arrow appeared, so I moved to the right and then went into the lab. I wonder, and again, this game's from 1996, so almost 30 years old. But I wonder now how I would design a game where there can be multiple paths, but some of them just aren't going to be used in a way in certain variations of the game. And that was one of my frustrations with the lab because it clearly felt, once I went in there, got the sock, so important. Like it felt like it was leading to something. And then I was maddened because I felt like I was missing something. I was like, okay, clearly there's something going on here that I need to complete, but I don't know what it's leading to. And other than the potions being delightful, I was like, what am I missing? And it turns out I was missing literally a whole path. It was kind of pointless. I didn't need to do anything.
Yeah,
That's my rant.
I'm sort of surprised by it. And I wonder if this is something about the Steam port or just maybe it's something I never thought about when I was a kid. But I really was surprised that you were even able to go to the lab because I also sort of felt like I was missing out. And part of it is because I like knew there was the lab, but I have sort of a vague memory that like everything has a purpose that you go to. And so I'm surprised that it felt that way. You know, like I maybe it's just rose-colored glasses and like I never felt that way because I was like, oh, it's a fun room where like chairs are dancing or whatever. But I really think that it might be a weird mix of stuff for the Steam port because I also think it's easier to get to the like there's no way that me as like a 6-year-old with my mom like figured out this like random extra path that's like really not obvious. Like I think it's pretty obvious in the path when you have to go to the lab. So it's a little funky to me and I might go play the iPad version and see because I remember thinking that that was pretty true to the what I remember.
I do want to tell you my biggest compliment for the game, something that I really, really loved, and I think I mentioned a little bit before, but wanted to go into a little more deeply now, which is the art style. I think that the art, and especially the environments, are super well done and cool and stylized. And specifically, I wanted to talk about something I texted you before we started recording this episode, which is, are you familiar with the film The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari?
I am familiar with it in terms of like knowing about it, but I've never watched it.
I bring it up because its style actually, I think you can draw a straight line from that to what we get in Pajama Sam. I looked up and tried to see if there was any direct influence from the developers of the artists, and I unfortunately couldn't find anything in an interview, but I did want to show you what I'm talking about so you can kind of see what I mean. And just for the uninitiated, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is a German film from the 1920s. It's a supernatural horror film and it's silent. It is really influential because of its style and it's part of a movement called German Expressionism, which favored drama and perspective even within the limits of 1920s filmmaking. And it wasn't just in filmmaking, this was across art in general. I mean, I'm going to share my screen and we'll also share some of these screenshots as a side by side on our blue sky because I want people to be able to understand where we're coming from. But I'm going to share my screen so I can show you what I mean.
I do think there's something about maybe one of the reasons I love Pajama Sam out of the humongous games compared to like Freddy Fish or Putt Putt. They do all have like a similar visual style, but Pajama Sam always felt much more narrative to me than
Mhm.
the like Freddy Fish or Putt Putt games. Maybe because it's focused on a human, even that if that human is like a little blue boy whose face turns into his hair.
I did read one of the things that I found when I was trying to figure out the art influences. I read that originally Pajama Sam was designed to have a pumpkin as a head, but apparently
Hmm.
that wasn't really working. So that's when they switched to the little blue man whose hair is basically part of his head. I also looked at him and thought that he looks very much like the Puffles from Club Penguin. Are you
Oh, he
familiar
does
with
kind of
those?
look like a puffle.
Yeah, Puffles are the little pets that you could get in Club Penguin, and they look like a puff of fur. They also look like if you removed Pajama Sam's head and put it on the floor. And I did check and see, I wanted to know if there were any artists shared between the projects, influence, and I couldn't find anything to confirm or deny either. But yes, Pajama Sam is a little puffle child, I think. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
This is a still from Dr. Caligari. It's a pretty emblematic of what the film looks like. The sets were painted to make each shot look much more dramatic with a forced perspective. You can see all of the lines painted draw you toward a specific view, which in this screenshot, it's an office, it's a psychologist office. There's the desk and the psychologist standing at a dramatic window. And then some screenshots of Pajama Sam, specifically in the mines sequence. And specifically, this one is kind of what made me think of it. This shot from Pajama Sam shows him in the mines sequence going up and down a kind of roller coaster like track. And the way it's drawn, it shows a lot of depth in a drop down toward lava on the track and then away back up. And I did really think that despite this being a lot more colorful than Dr. Caligari, which is tinted film but in black and white technically, I think there's a lot here that's similar.
No, definitely. Like there's a lot of it's very dynamic and it uses shadows to draw your eye to things to emphasize it. So like There's the sort of cracks in the wall in the mines of Pajama Sam. Makes it seem even more deep because it sort of draws your eye down and you can see the darkness of the crack like go from wider to smaller. And it's sort of similar to that first screenshot that you showed me where the lines are painted to sort of draw your eye.
Mm-hmm. And there's also, I am not a visual art expert, but I know that foreshortening is, for example, a technique to increase the illusion of depth in a 2D image. Caligari implements that very well, and Pajama Sam implemented that super beautifully as well when it came to the environments. Especially, I thought, for something made in the 1990s. It was also very bright and colorful, which I appreciated.
Something that I really appreciate about Pajama Sam is how natural the environment feels, even though it is inside his closet. So everything feels really apt for something that's inside his closet. So there's like piles of sports equipment, but it doesn't feel haphazard. It does feel haphazard, but in a very natural way of like you could see how things that are sort of similar get grouped together and piled up together, but it doesn't feel unintentional. And one of the other things I appreciate about those environments is that there's so much in the background, and almost everything that you click on, it does something, even if it's not relevant to the story, which I think is really nice design for a game focused on children. And it sort of encourages this open exploration where, like, you could spend the whole game, like, sort of clicking on stuff and just seeing what it does. And it's, I think, just a really nice touch.
Yeah, I did notice that because I did click around a bunch of stuff, especially when I was looking for my items menu and I couldn't find it. And so there are different animations that will present themselves even if you've clicked the same thing even 3 or 4 different times. And I read one of the Steam forums reviews where a guy was talking about playing it with his kids, and he noted specifically that that was a nice touch because they know that in order to hold a kid's attention, everything is going to have to do something and to be colorful and jump around, and that's what a lot of the background stuff did.
Yeah. I like the sound effects that happen too with the animations where you get sort of like a slide whistle or something when something rolls up and rolls back down. You get little Easter eggs from their other games too. Like I think there's a drawing of Putt Putt the car somewhere.
And there was a poster of Freddy Fish.
Mm-hmm.
I also liked the sound effects. It was very Looney Tunes. I enjoyed it.
I want to talk a little bit just quickly about the some more of the dialogue in it, just from quotes that I wrote down that I think I didn't I'm sure I did appreciate as a child, but not actively. But there's a lot of rhyming and just silly characters. Like there's a mailbox where you click on it to see if there's mail, and he says, "There's no mail, beat it." And I think that's really cute. All the appliances in the kitchen have a song or a rhyme where I think the dumbwaiter says, "That's a no no, we avow it, we simply can't allow it." And I think that's all just like really well done and really charming. And then I also love the carrot who wears the mask, who also appears in Pajama Sam 3, You Are What You Eat, From Your Head to Your Feet. Um, and when he's wearing the mask and you ask to get it from him, he says, "Property is theft, man." And he's like a freedom fighter. I don't know. I just wanted to appreciate the characters a little bit. And like some of the stuff that is this goes back to the idea of like dual levels of engagement for adults and children while they're playing together that I think it does really well because they have silly voices. It's like they've got rhymes, they've got these engaging like things to click on in the background, but they also have like this freedom fighter carrot who like might go over kids' heads. I really appreciated that as an adult, and I'm sure my mom when she was playing it with me thought it was really charming and really funny. So I just think they do that really well, these dual planes of engagement.
I do see how your mom would have enjoyed playing it with you as well because of those little things aren't quite necessarily for the child. Also, for the mailbox, did you keep clicking the mailbox?
I'm sure I have in the past, but I didn't. Does he give you something?
Yeah, eventually, if you don't leave him alone, he acquiesces and lets you open the mailbox, and there's just some junk mail
I do
claiming that,
remember that.
yes, that the Lord of Darkness or whatnot has won $1 million, and then it ends there. And then if you check in with him again, he'll be like, money still hasn't arrived, and that's kind of where it ends.
I think we're about done talking about Pajama Sam.
Yes, my conclusion is a delightful game for children. I don't know if I will pass it on to my hypothetical, if I'm in the position where I have children one day and I feel comfortable bringing life into this world, I don't know if I will make them play Pajama Sam. I might make them play Disco Elysium. I'm assuming my children will be ready for that. Age 6, minimum. But yeah, I had a fun time, and I'm glad you introduced me to it.
Yeah. Can you tell I was shaped by Pajama Sam?
Yeah, it's all making sense now.
Yeah. Oh, okay, sorry. Can we talk about one last thing with it? Which is how it ends.
So, in the end, once you've completed all of your items and you feel ready to face off with Darkness, you go into Darkness's room, and Darkness's room actually looks very similar to Sam's. And Darkness is hiding in his own closet, afraid of you. And it turns out that he just wants friends because, as Darkness, everyone assumes that he's this evil person and he just wants somebody to play cheese and crackers with. And Sam's a nice little boy, so he plays cheese and crackers with Darkness. They become friends, and then Sam goes home and says he'll play with him again sometime. So that's how he gets over his fear of darkness, which was very sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just like a really nice approach because I think you could totally have an ending where it's like he does defeat darkness and he's conquered his fear, and instead the thing that he does is he befriends his fear and he like becomes comfortable with it that way, and I think that's a really nice approach.
Yeah, I appreciated that as well. That he becomes friends with the thing rather than having to beat something up. A non-violent approach.
Yeah. Pacifist route of Pajama Sam.
There's a path in Disco Elysium that you could do that too. But when you think about it, there are many similarities between that, and that'll be a different episode.
If you really want to play the prequel to Disco Elysium, you should play Pajama Sam.